Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Astrology for Beginners, or Astrology 101 you might call it. Hi, I'm Nigel St. James, and today we're going to talk about the mystical symbol, the mysticism behind the symbol for Aquarius, which you'll find interesting. This is video number 17 of 30 in the series. They run for about 10 minutes each, and you will find them on my playlist. They'll be right there next to the current month's monthly tarot reading, which I do for each of the star signs. Now, the first thing that I'll mention about Aquarius is that Aquarius is actually an air sign. Now, you probably wouldn't think of that because it's got everything to do with water, and even its name, Aquarius, is a directly borrowed word from the old Latin language meaning water bearer. Aquarius was a water bearer. But Aquarius is an air sign, and it's the fixed sign of air. We'll get to cardinal, fixed and mutable things in a later video. Now, there are generally two symbols associated with this sign. There'll be two rows of these horizontal wavy lines like that. Usually you'll see them with a couple of peaks, 4 peaks in a row. The other symbol that you'll very often see is that of a jug or a pitcher of some sort. This isn't a representation of one, that they'll come however they may come. Now, interestingly, and although no one really knows what the origins for the particular symbols of the astrology signs are, I happen to know that these wavy lines in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics from about the year 2000, they actually represent the word water. Now, there's 7 peaks in that word. So it's so when you see those wavy lines like that, it means water, although it will always have 7 peaks associated with it. So that, for example, and this is just to give you an example, if you want to see what the hieroglyphic for pool is in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, it's this one down the bottom here. It's a rectangle with those squiggly lines in the inside of it, and that means pool or water. Now, I can't tell you, and I'm not going to tell you that is therefore the origin of the symbol of the wavy lines for Aquarius, because I just don't know that to be a fact, and in fact, nobody really knows what it is. But all of the aspects, all the systems of astrology throughout history, be they European, be they Hindu, be they Chaldean, be they Babylonian, be they Assyrian, or be they Egyptian, they have always associated this pitcher or a jug with the sign of Aquarius. Let me just make sure that's drawn down the bottom here again. Pablo Picasso, I'm not. Now, they always use this water and encasement for the water, so clearly water must have some mystical bearing on the situation. Now, of course, water bearer, well, Aquarius. Ancient mythologies have always associated water with the divine. For example, in the Greek mythology, Greek tradition, there was the boy, I guess he was probably about 12 years old or so, called Ganymede, who was taken up from where he was residing in what is today modern day Turkey to become the wine bearer or water bearer to Zeus, who was king of the gods. And so there is this aspect to it of service to the divinity, of serving the divine will associated with this sign. I think it's inevitable to come to that conclusion. The other thing which is interesting is that even in the Western tradition, in the Hebrew Bible or Christian Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, chapter 5, Noah. You remember Noah and the flood? Well, his dad, Lamech, says at the end of chapter 5, when speaking of the birth of his son, Noah, he says, "This one, he will provide us with relief from the work and toil over the very soil which God has cursed." Well, you can either take that literally, but as is the case with virtually, well, with all of the sacred works in the Old Testament, I think, that one should look to see what the spirituality is behind it. And there is, he will provide us with relief from matter, from toiling over the earth, because it's hard. It's hard to be alive, isn't it? It's difficult to be alive. And then, of course, Noah was there when the flood came through and took out all of life. So Aquarius, I think, relates to the two parts of the creative process, which is the complete annihilation of the past evolutionary course. And you remember from earlier videos, involution is the delving of spirit into matter, and evolution, with an E, the first one's with an I, and evolution is the soul moving away from matter and heading towards reunification with the divinity. Well, Aquarius is about saying that the path perhaps that you're on is not correct. Look again. Look again. The other thing that it does is that it stands for, as is the case of Noah and the flood, the birth of a new race or a new person, being born again. I don't mean that in an evangelical sense, but being born again, becoming renewed with the understanding of who the real you is. So Aquarius stands for the radical transformation, which involves the purification of the baggage which you have picked up and accumulated as a result of material desires. And it stands for a new direction in the spiritual life that you are to undertake. Now, you'll recall in our previous video on Capricorn that there was a psychological urge, that psychological orientation that had arisen as a result of the energy into Capricorn. Well, that psychological orientation acquired under Capricorn needs an outlet, and this is given under the sign of Aquarius. Let's have a look again at this jug symbol, and as I say, it's just a symbol. It's not set in stone as saying you've got to see it like that. You'll see variations of it. But have a look at it, because Aquarius is really saying that it is only when the life force energizes your inner self, when your true being is activated by the divine, then you can transcend selfish desire and move out as a drop to go and mingle in the ocean. The pitcher, or the jug, stands for material encasement, I would suggest. And it is an encasement which must release the water, the life force that is within it. Your soul must be released from this encasement. Now, the impulse from this sign, therefore, is concerned both with the pitcher, or the jug, and the water. If it is quite possible to have a great desire for material things and materiality, and that's that encasement aspect. But when there is an emphasis on true spirituality and what your true calling is and who you really are, then there is the unfoldment of a desire to live and be a woman or a man for others. And in fact, Aquarians, in my experience, have very often proven to be the great humanitarians. So This wavy line, again, I would suggest, now you might say it's the wind blowing the water, the wind being an air sign. I'll leave it to you to work out what it means for you. But I would suggest that it also represents movement in water, in this spiritual sense, in your soul, and the fluctuations of moods that need to be resolved before going on to the next stage. And the next stage is, of course, Pisces, which is what we'll do next. And until then, remember that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Until then, it's bye for now.